Greetings, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you today on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be interesting to you or someone you know, and that is something that I'm learning just by going to church. I'm not a super religious person, but I do like to go to church because I find there's interesting people and subjects that go around, and I do like to hear the sermons. So, for what it's worth, this isn't even really a Christian video. It's just a kind of a very brief overview of my growing understanding of the the life of Christ in a nutshell, in 5 minutes, if you will. So bear with me. So my understanding has grown, like I said, from my experience, in just passively reading the Bible, and I have not even read it cover to cover, but I have been learning, and I have been kind of following along with the rhetoric that all the Christian churches kind of have in common. And I've been to quite a few different churches now, and really what I want to talk about is some things that I was not clear about in the beginning before I started doing this, which were confusing about what I had heard about Jesus Christ. So I'm starting to get an idea that a lot of what people read in the Bibles, the common mainstream Bibles, is obviously, it's very old text. At best, it's been translated quite a bit, and this isn't about that. It's not about the accuracy, but it's about what I think actually happened in a nutshell, like I said. So I think Jesus was a real person, first of all. There's a small debate about that. I think in certain circles, people question whether this guy even existed. I, for one, think he did. And I think that he was a very unusual person, to say the least. I think that he was out of time, and that's a whole different video, a whole different conversation. He wasn't where he was supposed to be, but he didn't even know that, I think, at first, and did his best to adapt to the environment that he found himself born into and the people that it had and their problems. Now, here's where it gets interesting. These people, there were a lot of people by different names, and I'm not going to try to cover all of it, but they were challenged with a lot of things that challenge human beings, but they weren't so great at handling it. They, to say the least, you had the Romans, is my understanding it, near the time when Jesus was finally crucified. You had a great deal of corruption, a great deal of mistreatment, unfair treatment of people, greed and iniquity and inequality, both actually. And I think that throughout Jesus's life, he tried to, knowing what I know about the guy from reading, he probably tried to correct it. He probably tried to fix it. And his strategy was to tackle it one person at a time, the opposite of what he was seeing, which was, cruelty and domination. And he was trying to just say, well, you know what? That doesn't work. So let's try the opposite. Let's try love. Let's try compassion, understanding, all that stuff, the golden rule, do unto others what you want them to do to you. That kind of stuff. And he just kind of went around, saying it in a bunch of different ways, and people heard him, obviously started following him, and it was a new idea at the time. And so my understanding is, I believe that Jesus did not want to get crucified. And this is kind of my whole point of this video. I think that his approach to solving the problems of his time included rallying people, as maybe we would today in a political sense, from like a grassroots perspective, where you get people behind a movement kind of thing, and you start saying, well, this business or this government agency or the whole government has a problem and it needs reform. And I think that was kind of the equivalent of what he was trying to do, but it went sideways. And this is the part that's missing, I think, from the text that I've seen, the part about it going sideways, where Jesus was doing the right thing the best he could and was kind of broadsided by just how unbelievably huge and corrupt the system really was back then, and it backfired in a big way. There was no justice to speak of. And so what we end up with is a man basically innocent man getting crucified, trying to, fix some of the problems, getting people behind him, becoming a threat to the state just by existing, because there's suddenly resistance, there's new ideas, and it scares them, and they're seeing, if we don't do something, if we don't make an example of this man, it's going to spiral out of control, and it might be a threat to our power structure. That's probably what the leaders were thinking, the Roman leaders. So you can kind of see where it goes. The Romans put out their mercenaries, or their, the equivalent of law enforcement back then, and they say, okay, we'll turn them out, or we're going to just kill all of you. And that's kind of what they were already doing anyway, so it was believable. And then you have, Judas taking some money. He's like, all right, well, here's the boy, go get him. And Jesus is, he's aware of it, and then he's, the Last Supper is, he's finally faced with a choice to run and hide, or, because he doesn't have an army, he doesn't have any kind of military power, really. He just has, some peaceful followers who are trying to change things with love, and that's great, but love against the sword is a no-brainer. But anyway, so he does the difficult thing, which is kind of like not even really a choice at that point. He's like, well, if I don't turn myself in, they're going to come and kill everybody here. They're going to find us and kill us one way or another, because we can't run forever. So he ran out of options. That's what it looks like to me. He was turned out by his own people, and he ran out of options. He got crucified, and he shouldn't have been. And that's really my point. I think that when a martyr is killed, obviously, we remember them because they were killed, but there are a lot of people who bring the truth. They bring the message, the same message, really, of truth and love and compassion that Jesus had. And you never hear about the ones who were successful. You never hear about the ones who were not crucified figuratively, because there was no incident. There was no historical, newsworthy event that we all have to hear about. They just did their job, people benefited, and moved on. So the common good that we have around here, you can thank millions of people throughout history, millions of saints, millions of, just hard workers, anonymous people, not just one guy, but tons and tons of people working hard, good people who all share the same devotion to truth and compassion that Jesus Christ did, but they didn't happen to be crucified in a spectacular way. So that's my take. Anyway, I'm at 7.5 minutes. There's obviously a lot more to be said about the Bible, and I think that it's a good thing, more or less, but there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of contradictions. I don't want to get into that either, but I hope you have a great day. It's Saturday, March 22nd. I had to think about the date. Saturday, March 22nd it's about noon right now, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you.